What's up, everybody? Welcome to the newest episode of Demo Day, the podcast for entrepreneurs and venture capitalists, where we demystify the culture of joining one of the top accelerator, incubator, or VC programs from around the world. I'm your host, Sean Goldpan, CEO of Coefficient Labs, and on today's episode, we'll be interviewing Obi Onyejekwe, founder and CEO of Unomi, and a current participant in the Backstage Capital Accelerator program. At Unomi, Obi has built software that reduces the production time and budget of the animation process by 30 to 75%. He's raised early stage seed investment and is currently hiring and looking to add to his team. On today's episode, Obi takes us through his journey as a young artist making drawings in class to moving through the ranks as one of the top creatives at TV networks like Nickelodeon and BET. Obi also talks to us about the concept of drive and why this particular attribute is the most important thing for any entrepreneur to be successful. And he also talks a little bit about Unomi, his company that is democratizing animation and making really motion graphics available to everyone of all shapes and sizes. Guys, stop. If you are watching this podcast right now on the Coefficient Labs website, get out of there, go over to the iTunes store and leave us a review. Coefficient Labs is so appreciative of your reviews on iTunes that we're giving away 2 $10,000 packages to one venture capitalist and one founder that really needs help with growth. So if you want help with growth from myself and the Coefficient Labs team, go head over, leave us a review. Without further ado, let's get into Demo Day. Obi, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of Demo Day.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. So, Obi, Demo Day is a podcast for entrepreneurs and venture capitalists, but really for entrepreneurs that are thinking about maybe joining an accelerator, an incubator, or some kind of a VC program. And what we're doing here is trying to help all of these people understand what it's like to be in your shoes. And, by telling us your story and learning about, how you got to where you are and what your experience is like in these programs, really excited to help a lot of entrepreneurs that maybe are in the same position as you.
Definitely.
So, Obi, tell us a little bit about, I know right now you're at Backstage Capital, but it's not your first time going through a program. So before digging back into, your early life and what got you here, what is exciting about joining a program for you? Why did you decide to join a program?
Exactly. I think most importantly is, first and foremost, is support. You can't do this alone, and you're going to need a lot of advice, advisors, mentors, people to make major connections for you to not only raise capital, but help you build your company, build your team, and go, and maybe even gain customers from there as well. So it's imperative, especially if you're a first-time founder. I highly recommend it. Unless you're majorly connected and you come from money or something like that, and hell, even if you do come from money, I think it's advantageous.
Now, it seems as though the accelerator and incubator programs, while they're really kind of not, I don't want to say focused, but are very prevalent in Los Angeles and San Fran, they do spread out across the United States. Are you from Los Angeles, or how did you find yourself in this ecosystem?
Yeah, I'm actually from New York, or actually born and raised in Nigeria. I'm born in Nigeria, but raised in the U.S. But most of my adult life is in New York. And so 15 years, I went through the Accelerator program there. And then New York is growing as well, aggressively when it comes to the startup world and accelerators and incubators as well. But I went through Accelerator there as well, called SLP. And that was major. That got me through that first startup for sure.
What was it like? A lot of people listening to this show have either immigrated, from out of the country here. What was it like for you growing up? So you were born and raised in Nigeria. How long were you living in Africa for?
Oh, so we actually came to the States when I was like 3. So mostly born in the U.S., raised in the U.S. But I think, it's the classic immigrant tale. You don't exactly fit into everybody once you first get here. But I think we were in Dallas, Texas first. It was a great environment, actually. I remember growing up where I was probably the only black kid in class, but there was a ton of like kids from Indonesia, from China, from Japan, from Mexico. And we even had a cultural day where you came dressed up as your traditional clothes and brought food as well. Crazy. This all went down in Dallas, Texas.
How would your teachers or your classmates describe you back in, early days, elementary, middle school?
Okay. Art kid, I was big into art. I was the kid who could draw, that was my thing growing up.
So very creative early on. Did you have an entrepreneurial spirit when you were in school, or did that come with time as you started to get older?
Oh, yeah. I think my father was an entrepreneur, struggled at it, but he was an entrepreneur. I think it really kicked in. I think it kicked in when I got my first piggy bank. And the mission was to fill that bad boy. And I think once I got to Atlanta, I started selling candy to my classmates. I'd buy candy for I think 50 cents each and then sell them for $1. And that ramped up. And I remember one kid was like, this is before, you're really understanding your market. So one kid was like, man, you guys healthy snacks? Because he was like a football player. I was like, all right, I'll get you some peanuts and something like that. And so, it just started to scale over time.
See, that's really funny because my story is very similar in that when I was in third grade, Pokemon cards were sort of like the rave. And I realized that the Pokemon cards were great, but what people really wanted were the shiny cards. And so my whole thing was I would take the shiny cards out of the decks that I got and then resell them as shiny only decks and was able to make a little wheeling and dealing in third grade.
Exactly.
When did you start to transition from sort of a on-campus salesman, early entrepreneur into thinking this is something you want to do for your life and what you really want to put your passion towards?
No, I mean, I remember being in college. It was like the last year. And I'm really asking myself, damn, dude, are you really going to go clock in and clock out? That's what you're going to do? And I remember getting out. It was the first .com crash. I had internships where I was actually getting paid. Then that became unpaid quickly. And I started freelancing. I think I struggled to get any type of work. Then I finally got some freelance gigs. And that was great because it helped me bounce around from company to company. And I learned how each and every company worked. So this company worked this way, this company worked that way, and I learned what I didn't like as not only working in companies, but what kind of company I wanted. I knew that production may not be what I wanted because what I quickly learned is you're as valuable as the number of clients that you have. You lose clients, your valuation goes down aggressively. Where the beauty with tech down the line and what I learned with tech was it's kind of like having one T-shirt that you could sell to everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Versus, okay, I got to print more T-shirts. I got to go into production. I got to do this. I got to change it up. Where you can make one product and you can sell it to everybody. So I think later on after working in corporate America, I realized, matter of fact, I got fired actually. I think that's what did it. I was working at BET and I got fired. And it was the ultimate thing. I was like, dude, this is not for you. This is not what you were meant for. You weren't meant to be in these corporate environments where they're just not on your same level. They're not going in the same direction as you are. I mean, I remember predicting the major, battle between HBO and Netflix. I remember talking to my boss when I was at Spike about the oncoming of the digital streaming world and wanting to trying to pivot the company into that direction. He was like, nah, you can't make money in that. We can't sell ads on that and make money back. And so, fast forward, I was like, okay, you got to go on your own.
Trust your intuition.
Exactly.
What other experiences have you had where you've really had to trust your intuition that maybe is counterintuitive to what bosses or your parents would have had to teach you?
Hell, I mean, God, even going into art and design. My parents were like, my aunts and uncles, they were like, you sure you want to do this? I'm coming from a Nigerian background. When you grow up with Nigerian, it's doctor, lawyer, accountant, pick one. That's it. And for real. I mean, I'm talking about, I'm the only one doing this in my family. Everybody else is straight up a doctor, lawyer, and accountant. So
talk to us more about that, because I think you're hitting on something right now that is really untalked about in, especially for students that are international students that feel like they're in this box and there's no choice for them. How would you give advice, or what do you recommend for people that had a very similar upbringing, but maybe they didn't have the, they don't have the, what they want to say to their parents? Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Oh, look, this is how it went down. It was high school. I'm graduating. My aunt and uncle sit me down and they're like, look, you're great at math. You should be an engineer. This art thing, we don't know about this. We don't really think this is going to make money. And they're come from a harsh world where, we didn't come to the States to starve. And so, we came to the U.S. to survive or to get ahead. So I thought about it. I really thought hard about it. And I'll never forget I think it's a 3D Listerine commercial came on TV. And I was like, that could be you. That could be you working on something like that. That could be like, I think at the time, maybe even Toy Story was even out. And I was like, that could be you working on that. I was like, if you go their path, you will most likely regret it. You will be resentful towards them. And most importantly, you'll be resentful towards yourself. It doesn't matter how much money you make. You will not be happy. You will always watch a movie, 3D or animated or whatever, and you're going to be like, that could have been me. And you're going to have deep regrets about it. And so that's when I was like, screw this. I'd rather take the plunge and fail on my own than go down their path and be resentful towards them and myself. Look, you live one life, like the engineering and the doctor jobs, they'll always be there. You should definitely go hard. My only, caveat to that is learn the business. If you're going to go be in design, art, animation, tech, learn the business, learn how it all really works so that you're not going in blind.
Bring the same energy and passion you would into med school or grad school, right? Because I think that that's sometimes, you have people that have traditionally been going down one path and then they decide, oh, you know what? I'm not going to go to law school. I'm going to start a business, but they don't have that same energy and that focus that you need to commit to really making the business work.
Exactly. If you don't have that drive, you probably will fail in being an engineer or being a doctor, but you need major drive. I mean, medical school, what was this, 10 years? That's a decade, like you need to have serious drive to make it through that.
How did the conversation go? Because it sounds like, mom and aunt sit you down. You took the night to really think about it. Do you remember what it was like when you kind of went to talk to them and say, listen, I've made up my mind?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I went to my aunt. It was by that point, my uncle didn't even want to sit down and talk to me. So my aunt was like, so I told her, look, this is just what I want to do. I mean, I don't have the passion to do what you guys are even mentioning. So she was like, look, cool. If you're going to do this, be the best. I was like, don't worry, I will. And she was like, all right, and that's it. You're on your own. And I made it happen,
When you think about that time in your life, we had a podcast a little while ago with a guest who just talked about, he was sitting at his job and he just kept saying to himself, like, you can do this. And do you think that a lot of your confidence comes from, that voice in your head within, or was it through a mentor or your aunt or a family member that really gave you that ability to push through?
I mean, it was a combination of both. It was definitely always had that drive to kind of be adventurous. I was always that kid that questioned things. If you said this is the way things were done, I was the one that was like, well, why? Well, why? And at the same time, I was really good at what I did. That helped a lot. And my teachers were major pushers of, this is what you should do. You're good at this. And when you're not killing it in sports or football, whatever it may be, or even killing it even in academics, but you have this one thing you're crushing it at, and everybody's like, man, you should be doing this. You're good at it. Then yeah, that's where you should be going.
Yeah. Man, that's really, really awesome. Now, once you decided that you wanted to become an entrepreneur, you wanted to you knew that the old way of things or you having this sort of, 9-to-5 job wasn't for you. What was the first step? So you've decided to become an entrepreneur. Yeah. Did you come, right out of the gate with your business, or did it take you some time to get to where you are today?
It definitely took some time. First, I had to get out of really the worker bee or even the corporate mentality. I had to really be reprogrammed, and I knew that. I knew that I didn't know enough. So I started going to a lot of meetups, tech meetups. How to build apps. What is UI UX for a mobile device look like? What is that like? What this is early iPhone. Like, what technology is actually in here? I remember they went to one meetup where they were breaking out, there's a sonar system that you could program within this iPhone that could actually detect like how big a room. And I was like, what the hell? They got that shit in this phone?
Yeah.
So the sky was the limit. I had to really get educated on tech and where it was going and what the current technology was out at the time. And so over time, I learned more, and then I started to surround myself around other entrepreneurs who were educating me about the overall industry. I mean, I remember when, God, I think at the time I didn't even know that Google was $1 billion company. And I remember a friend sitting me down and was like, yeah, dude, they're like billions off of what, email? And I was like, no, the ads. And I think he said the same thing about Yahoo. And I was just blown away by how much money these companies were really making. And so I was really getting educated not only on the tech, but the business side of it. So
now, as someone, look, we met at an event. Clearly, events are a big part of your early days in getting in. Mm-hmm. Now, in hindsight, would you have done it all the same exact way? I think one of the things that it's, events can be both a blessing and a curse. Mm-hmm. It's the blessing in that you're expanding your network, you're having new ideas, they're teaching you about all of the different intricacies. And I sometimes feel like it's a curse because it's a little distracting from. Mm-hmm. It almost, because naturally people are afraid to fail, mm-hmm. they then think, you know what, I need to go and gain that learning or gain mm-hmm. that trust. Would you have done it all the same way, or have you learned more about yourself going to these events? Yeah,
I definitely would have done it the same way for sure. The one advice I do give about events is you got to pick and choose your events. It can't be any old event. And then, look, you'll start off going to like some of the janky events, it happens. But you quickly learn to filter them out, and then you quickly get invited to the better events. You'll meet somebody, they're cool. Like, hey, Google's actually sponsoring something and it's cool. And you just sign up here, or Yahoo's sponsoring something, and you start going to more quality events, and then you start to meet new and interesting people. So it's just all about filtering it out. And, some are just about people finding jobs and then mucking around and maybe even dating or whatever. But, it's up to you to kind of filter people out as you go in,
What advice do you have? Because I feel like in today's world, there's events for everything. Mm-hmm. So it seems like you've almost created a little bit of like a template for if it doesn't meet these requirements, I'm probably not going to get value. Mm-hmm. Do you have any sort of a system or advice for people in other industries on how they should think about going to events?
Exactly. Yeah, look, here's one of my top rules. Who's sponsoring it? Do your research on who's sponsoring an event. Is it a Yahoo? Is it a YouTube? Is it? First see who it is. Even if it's an individual, look them up.
Why is that important to you?
Because it'll definitely dictate the quality of the event. If it's a big name and they're really backing money behind it, and especially if they're holding it at their facility, yeah, you need to go to that event. That's huge, especially if it's a WeWork or a shared office space or one of those guys. Like those, that's when it's going to be a bit better because they're not goofing off. They're really going to have a structured panel, and they're going to be very serious about what they're talking about. Some events, they'll straight up have almost a room full of investors in that bad boy, which I rarely even saw when I was even in New York. So if you get to the point that you're going to quality events, that's how you know it's really quality
because,
when investors outnumber startups, you've kind of made
jackpot.
Yeah, exactly. The jackpot of all events.
So sponsor is one, having VCs at the actual event is two. Anything else that are kind of like really good indicators for you?
Yeah. Where do they throw the venue? I mean, is it some silly restaurant, does it look at least like a nice venue? That's a major one. The VC part, hopefully it takes time to get to those major events, but yeah, that the caliber of people going to those events as well. But yeah, I'd say most importantly, look at who's hosting it and where it's hosted at.
Let's talk a little bit about Unomi. I mean, this is, where your passion, where you're currently investing your time and energy. I had asked you before, was this your very first company, or did it take you some time to get here? So what did you do before Unomi? What was life like between kind of your normal day-to-day job and where we are right now?
So actually, Unomi is my second startup.
Second?
Yeah. So my first startup was called Neato. It was similar to Snapchat's facial recognition feature or filter. Snapchat acquired our competitor Looksly to get that technology. Then AOL acquired Neato to get the same technology, and they're doing the same thing with it right still to this day. I think some of my old team members are still there. And then after that, I think right when we were exiting Neato, I was building Unomi. And so once we exited, I made a decent amount of money and then quickly reinvested to starting Unomi. I was in New York, moved out to California to start Unomi and then go from there.
Were you the CEO of Nito? Or?
Yeah. So with Nito, I started off as CEO, then eventually stepped down as just like lead software engineer. I had a co-founder, had a bit of co-founder conflict too. So that was a part of it. Learned a lot about building teams with that startup. But yeah, once I stepped down, kept it going, and then we finally, thank goodness, exited.
What, whether it be positive or negative, what were some of the learnings or takeaways that you came out from, formulating the right partnership? I think that there, especially with the Accelerator, there's a lot of companies that meet in the Accelerator, the incubator or co-working spaces. So, for the 19 to 26-year-old just getting started on their first company and they've got a buddy that wants to join on, what advice do you have around formulating partnerships?
So first and foremost, it's not a democracy. It needs to be a dictatorship. So 50-50s, generally investors don't like that. You could do it, but I would advise not to. One person needs to be leading the vision and execution of all this. Is splitting up in 3 groups evenly, another bad move. 4, even worse. Somebody does need to have a final call. Better one douchebag leading it than 2 people arguing and then it stops. I would say, analyze the value of what each person brings to the table. It's not 50-50 because we're both not bringing that much value equally. It's not realistic. If I could do the UI UX, business development, branding, and you're just an idea person, and let's be honest, I'm
an idea guy too, right?
Yeah, I'm coming to the table with a lot more resources than you. Now, if you're coming with like some money, you're throwing in $500,000. Okay, now that's a different conversation.
Yeah, I think that inexperienced entrepreneurs tend to want to be around people like them. Oh, they like my idea. Whereas I think as you get older, you realize that you really need those people to counterbalance where you're not the best at.
Exactly. And so yeah, if you're the idea person, then you need an engineer, especially if you're building software. And then you're also probably going to need maybe a business development person if that's not you. So you need to find your opposite or what you're, like you said, what you're not good at.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be finding your twin.
And let that sink in deep, because I know a lot of business savvy, business devy people that are also working with other business devy. It's like, no, you need a CTO.
Exactly.
Yeah. And now, what was the experience? It's crazy to think that like someday, you were sitting down watching this commercial thinking, holy shit, like I could be that guy. And then a couple of years later, you're actually being acquired by one of the biggest companies in the world, AOL. What was it like for you in reflection? What did your aunt and mom say during that time?
It's funny. They don't even understand what all this is. They're still like, they don't know what I do even. They're just like, he just works with computers. That's all he does. That's all we know. A couple of times, maybe he animates too. That's it. It was mind-blowing to go through your first startup. You raise capital, you go through all this drama, office space in Wall Street, to exiting with AOL. It was a roller coaster. There was ups, there was major downs. It was insane. But I came out of it just like, oh my God. Like once I calmed down a bit, it was like, wow, this is insane.
I think that one of the things a lot of people understand that, when you say there's the ups, there's the downs, I think people really do understand the concept of it. But what advice, again, because I think until you're really a founder, until you're really, alone at night, right, what advice do you have for those that are in a slump? For whatever reason, things aren't going their way.
Yeah, you will get the downs. Your slump, it all depends on what the issue ultimately is. A lot of times it's because you're alone. Like you need advice. Stop being in that room or the office by yourself. Get help, get assistance, ask for help and assistance. Especially if you're a single co-founder, or single founder, you most likely will need a co-founder. Unless you're sitting on a stupid amount of money, I highly advise getting a co-founders within your company to help you, because it's a lot of work. It's an insane amount of work. I want 2 more co-founders within the company to help me kind of scale and grow. So yeah, I would say you definitely need to reach out to people and then not sit in a room or office festering and trying to figure it out on your own, because you're most likely not going to figure it out on your own.
Yeah, we had Ben Smith on the podcast, who's an advisor to Mucker, and he was just saying, like, when you're feeling down, when you're in those slumps, start giving help to other people, start adding value, and just give. And very quickly you find yourself just like the world is starting to work your way. And I found that to be really interesting, that like it's really counterintuitive when you're feeling at your lowest to then try to look for someone else to help. But, you know, again, something to consider for anyone listening to this.
Exactly.
Now, you exited Nito. Did you take some time for yourself, or did you immediately get right back into your next business?
Man, I got immediately into it. Like,
ready to go.
Yeah, like I think one woman was like, "Did you even go shopping?" I was like, "I think I bought a leather jacket at most." That was about it, and I got it on sale. So, so no, I went directly into it just because all I could think is you learned a shitload. Like you learned a lot, and let's use this knowledge, you know, and go right back into it, you know. And then, you know, the startup ecosystem was just getting better and better. And then, like, even out here in Los Angeles, I think I took a trip. I think I went to New York and I came back, and I realized I think I read an article. I think I read 4 articles where there's 4 new accelerators that popped up. I was like, God damn, this money flowing, you know. So.
And so what was that like for you? Had you already been to the Accelerator in New York but prior to this?
Yeah. So yeah, I went through with SLP, and then right after SLP, I think, yeah, I mean, the company got exited in about 3.5 years. So that was definitely done. And then once I came out here, I was going to I think my rule once I came out to LA was 3 events or more every week.
Every week.
So I was working, then events, networking, talking. What's it like out here? You know, because I was new. That led to better events. I think that led to another Yahoo event. That led to an event over at Stubbs. Then that led to meeting a woman that worked at TriNet, who I talked to this morning, Anna. Then that led to, I didn't even know Stubbs had the pre-seller. I went to their events like 3 times and didn't even know. Then she made an intro to Heidi at Stubbs, and then I got into pre-seller. It just snowballs.
Got to keep moving.
Yeah.
You got to keep moving.
Yeah.
And so what was it like, you know, we'll talk about Backstage. What was the pre-accelerator like for you?
It was great. I think pre-accelerator was for me, I was stuck. You know, I was in a rut. I wasn't able to connect with the investors. My team was just like, it needed to grow, but I didn't know where to find the right people. I was just being introduced to just people who were just goofing off, who weren't really the right people for my company. And then I got introduced to Stubbs, and it's crazy. They had just closed their application process, just closed it.
Before you entered?
Yeah, exactly. And so I presented my pitch deck to Heidi. They loved it to the point that they reopened it, got me in, quickly reviewed, loved what they saw, and then I got in.
Now, it seems as though whether it was from like that vision you had watching the commercial of, I think you called it like the 3D Listerine ad, to the kind of Snapchatty facial recognition, and now with what you're doing in your current company, you know, it seems like you're very fascinated by video and animation. And so where does that come from? Is it tie back to your early roots as just a drawer and a creator?
Yeah, like as a kid, I drew comic books. I was always illustrating. I remember sending mail to Marvel saying, "Hey, can you hire me?" It's fun to actually write you back too. But yeah, like I was always creative. I was great at art. I went through, even in high school, all 4 years in art classes. My teachers were very encouraging for me, really pushed me. And then I ended up getting into Atlanta College of Art for 1 year, then ended up going to Georgia State, and then I went to school for graphic design. And the beauty with that was graphic design taught me, I wanted to learn 3D animation. They didn't have that program, so I ended up going through graphic design. But the blessing was graphic design taught me business and art merged. And that was great because I learned the full infrastructure of why things are built the way they are, and just the structure of how businesses are formed around creativity.
Yeah, and just UX in general, right?
Exactly.
Like, I think that, you know, what's crazy about tech businesses is that like it all centers around the concept of flow, right? Like the user journey. You can call it a lot of different things, but the biggest obstacles that happen in flow, yes, there's some engineering, you can run into roadblocks, right? But a lot of the hurdles come in the design. It comes in the ability to know that, if I'm going to be going through this and I'm going to hit this, how can I design it in a way that's intuitive? And I think that, to your point, it's very helpful in business.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Think if you can have the best technology all you want, if the architecture is garbage, nobody's using it.
Yeah. Hands down. Now, Accelerator was it's a 3-month program?
No, it's actually pretty long. It's a 6-month program.
6 months.
Yeah, and if you're doing well, they extend you for 9. Yeah. It's pretty great. I mean, I think you get to do a deep dive. It gives you that opportunity to come in. I think they changed it now. I think they actually give equity now. I mean, give out cash now. But it allows you to give you time to build your actual product, get it ready before they even present you in front of investors, and then go from there.
So let's talk about Accelerator for another minute here. Who is Accelerator right for? For someone that's never heard of them, that's listening to this, what kind of an entrepreneur do you think is the right fit for Accelerator?
I would say they generally I don't think they even take idea stage. I think if you have a prototype, you've actually built the website, you actually build the app. It may be janky as hell, buttons may not work. That's who you're for. You're not ready to be raising capital unless you come from a crap load of money or if you're majorly connected. But you're generally that. And then if the idea and the vision is great and you have the expertise or the backing or the background to execute and follow through, then great. Because I think another thing is they won't take you if you may have a great idea. If they feel like you're the wrong person to be building it, then they won't take you in.
Got it. Yeah. And then what's the delta or what's the difference? Kind of, I would imagine going from Accelerator to the next phase is a step up. What are you getting in sort of the more normal Backstage, Quake, Mucker that you're not necessarily getting in a Accelerator?
So Accelerator, you're so early, the chances of getting investment capital is probably unlikely. And that's not a bad thing. It's just that you're just too early. You're not fully fleshed out. The bigger guys, like whether it be Techstar, Y Combinator, even Mucker, all those guys, they're going to start. That's when they're going to want a bit of revenue.
They want traction and
revenue, or a phenomenal product that is fully developed, a fully developed team. You want to start hitting like there's traction, product, team. You at least need 2, at least. But some of them you need all 3, but you at least need 2.
And what was that process like for you? Did you, same question, did you take time out of Accelerator or did you know right when you were in there that like you wanted to graduate to the next phase, whatever that might be?
Oh yeah, like I had a plan. Like my thing was get as much out of it as possible. Because you get out of it what you put in.
Yes.
So my thing is like I needed to have a decent enough product at the very end, at least. I was trying to get traction, but I still needed to develop the product a bit more. So that meant I needed to build a team out a bit more. So talked to a lot of investors to get feedback on what I'm missing or what needs to be fixed in my deck and my overall business plan. So I think I even slightly pivoted a bit more to add a bit more features and software to my platform
based on the feedback you got.
Mm-hmm.
And then did you always know that you wanted to go to Backstage, or did you have kind of a time where you were deciding between multiple different funds or programs?
Man, I think at the time I didn't even expect to go to another Accelerator, to be honest. I thought the game plan was just to build this bad boy out and then get investment and just keep it going from there. Then once I think I applied to I was applying to Y Combinator, Techstar, all these guys, and then Backstage. Originally, game plan with Backstage was to just get investment capital. They hadn't even started their Accelerator yet. So then once they presented the fact that they're going to have Accelerator, I was like, screw it, let me go ahead and definitely apply for this. And because
I've heard they have a very elaborate application program. I don't. What was the Backstage program like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's similar to like even Y Combinator and the Techstar, they kind of have the same form that you got to kind of fill out. But yeah, it's great. I think they have a massive lineup of mentors that you're talking to, people you're connected to, investors that come in and give you feedback. It's great. I mean, they give an insane amount of feedback and information on scaling your business and then updating your deck. I think recently my deck got even better just from their feedback. And one thing I love about, especially with their feedback on my deck, was it was pragmatic. It wasn't just, well, this is just what investors want to see. It's, oh, you should do this because of this and this because of that. And that's far more beneficial than just do it because.
Or because you learn the why behind it.
Exactly.
And so, for those that have not heard about Backstage, what are some of the things that maybe you've learned since you've been there that you weren't expecting, but have since kind of popped their head up, whether it be helpful or not as helpful? Any takeaways?
I think you just get to, you know what it is? They really, by being in this program, it really showed me the other side. Now I got a deep dive look as to what it looks like to be at an accelerator. Not accelerator, but a VC firm. I see the detailed setup and layout of who works there, how it works, their LPs, how they raise money, how the same issues I got to go through in raising capital, they got to go through as well. It was interesting. It was fascinating.
Meaning, because I'm familiar, meaning Backstage is like a venture capital first and Accelerator was something they've added on.
Exactly.
Oh, interesting.
Exactly. And so that same money that funds you as an accelerator, they still got to raise that. The same way they have to raise the venture back
their fund.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what about some of roadblocks or things that you weren't expecting but that have kind of popped up, and any words of advice for maybe things to avoid if you're a startup going into your first program?
Yeah, I think the program will definitely get you through everything. The top advice is go in. Go to all the meetings, go to all the events, talk to everybody, ask questions, follow up, try to get a co-founder. If you don't have a co-founder, get an assistant, because you're going to be overwhelmed with a lot of information. So you're going to need somebody to help you keep that organized, to follow through. Because even though they connect you with, let's say, an advisor or a mentor, that advisor or mentor has a life too, and they're going to be very busy. So you're going to need to follow through. Sometimes, as a matter of fact, recently, one guy, he didn't return the email. As a matter of fact, multiple people, I had to re-email all of them again in the following week. So I needed a chart. I had to literally make a big chart of people who have to reach back out to and contact.
It's such an interesting concept because, on one hand, the value is the network. The more people you meet, the more humans you add value to, the bigger your network is, the more, you have to work with. And then, at the exact same time, you sort of have, only so much time in the day that you can be spending meeting with people and working on your business. And so it's such a balance that you have to find while you're there.
Exactly. I remember going to a Techstar event where they were talking about what it's like to go through Techstar. And of course, I think Techstar has the first 2 weeks of, I think they call it founder whiplash. Okay. Yeah. And so one guy or woman ended up getting an assistant. They were just like, I think a couple of people told them, like, you need to get an assistant or else this is going to be hell to keep up with. And sure enough, I think they finally did it. And it was night and day difference.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Because what's also, I was kind of alluding to it a minute ago, but like there is this value, like such good value from meeting these people and gaining their knowledge. But this part of me feels too that like Techstars, Mucker, Backstage, by creating these environments where you have to constantly be moving, they're sort of like, you got to move. To your point, like you have to keep moving. And even though you're adding value by having these people in this network, it's kind of like that accountability, right?
Yeah, and it's tough too, because you got to get your work done.
Right.
You got to run a company. So, they're eating up a good chunk of your time in that 3 week, 6 week, 3 week, 3 month or 6 month program. So you got to balance that out with your team.
Talk to us a little bit more about your business, Unomi, right? So what are you trying to solve with it? Why are you so passionate about this company?
Yeah, so I come from the animation and graphic design and motion design background. I worked at multiple ad agencies. I worked at Nickelodeon, BET, Spike, which is now Paramount, even Cartoon Network. And, I've created animated content. I've had clients that come to us all the time I have a, production company, and multiple people come to us wanting animated content. It's expensive. People look at it and think, oh, I could get Toy Story for only like 10K. I was like, do you not read these articles that list this bad boy as $300 million budget? Like, what makes you think when you come to us, it's going to be 1,000? Literally, people will come to you thinking, oh, that only costs like 5,000, right? Like, if it cost 5,000 to make Toy Story, I'd be a rich man, right? Like, extremely rich man right now. Are you kidding me? I have my own streaming channel right now, like with animated content. But I really wanted to really democratize it. I really wanted to create tools because I remember being at BET one time, and this one company came and sold BET some software. And I'm not gonna name the software, but it was the shittiest thing I ever seen in my life.
Okay.
It looked like it came straight out of the 90s. It was bad, like worse than Craigslist bad, like really bad. So and then I think they told me the price tag, which was around maybe $500,000 for a year. And then they charge additional fees to have us train to use it. I was like, you got to be kidding me. You guys are making I'm not even mad at you. I'm not even mad at you.
I'm just impressed.
Yeah. I was like, this is your hustle? So I was like, I know I could build software better than this. And so it really got me in the mindset because I could do this. I could definitely do this. Give me a team. I could definitely roll some stuff out. So I definitely saw the pain points in creating content and saw opportunities to make it a lot easier and simpler. So our first bit of software is like the 2D lip syncing software. We automate the lip syncing, have a lot of features that optimize it and make it even faster, more accurate. We have a 3D version that we're about to roll out as well, which the pain point's even worse with 3D. It's extremely expensive. And then we have some motion capture software we're going to be rolling out with. So instead of you going into the motion capture facilities with the tracking suits and all that, and I think those facilities are starting at $2,000 an hour. Our software will automatically do that with markerless technology. So you don't need markers. You don't need a special facility. You can use any camera, and it'll track your movement, bring it back into any 3D program, you're good to go.
So let's talk about some of the different like use cases or the perfect types of customer. Maybe if you could start with if you're an entrepreneur if you're an agency who would be the right the perfect type of customer using your product, and what's the scenario they may find themselves needing it?
Yeah, so we're definitely starting B2B first. So the enterprise businesses first. So like your Nickelodeons or your Cartoon Networks. And then, of course, the companies that they outsource to, whether it be in China, India, or even the Philippines. So we're starting there first because they're going to have the biggest impact. So, I mean, especially, let's say you're some animation studio in Africa even, or Nigeria or Ghana, or, now we could definitely optimize your workflow and then definitely save you a lot of money and time and then allow you to kind of have a stronger bid for other animated content that's rolling out. Then from there, our next tier would be the YouTube content creators or any independent content creator in general. But and hopefully we can kind of lock in some of the people that are, I don't know if you ever heard of Channel Frederator, but they're basically like, Maker Studios.
Yep.
They're like the animation version of Maker Studios.
Okay. So like Cartoon Network type.
Yeah, exactly. So instead of all live action, they're all creating animated content. So getting those guys in, because at that point, you're going from making content weekly, monthly to daily. So that changes the revenue stream drastically because YouTube will pay you more for additional content, and then there's just more promotion for you at the end of the day. And then the last, of course, is students and universities. Beauty with them is universities will lock in about at least 60 seats. So that's 60 subscriptions from our...
At least.
Yeah, exactly. So you're looking at the classrooms that are no less than 25 seats. Then, of course, the computer labs.
Right.
So, yeah, and then if you're talking... I think one school we're talking to, they were like... I think they said they had 5,000 students. And I was like, well, how many you think you can lock in? I'm thinking they're going to tell me like 60, 30, 12 or something like that. They were like, no, we're going to lock you in for like about 1,000 students. I was like, hell yeah.
Let's go.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, because when I went to University of Miami for advertising, and the amount of tools that they would give us access to for research, for the BDI tools, I could imagine that for small animation schools or graphic design where they don't have animation as the focus, could be utilizing this technology.
Exactly.
What are you most excited about now? I mean, it sounds like there's some new things rolling out here. What's really exciting? What's driving your day-to-day week?
Yeah, I mean, I think the top thing is just wrapping things up with Backstage. So the program ends, I think, in another 2 to 3 weeks. So getting ready, we're about to launch a new updated version of the 2D software. So that's exciting. So we got quite a few animation studios ready to use it, major names. So hopefully we can lock those in, and it'll be pretty easy to raise capital after that.
Wow! Congratulations, Obi. Where can people get in contact with you? So if people want to reach out, they want to try your software, they want to learn more about your what you're looking for from an investment perspective. Where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can visit me on my website. It's called getunomi.com. So GETUNOMI.com, or you could email me directly at obi@getunomi.com.
Obi, this has been an incredible episode of Demo Day. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
The more that you're empowering the staff around you, the better it's going to be for you and for everyone around you, because people will want to have ownership of that company and of that space. And it becomes less like a job and more like a life without sucking the life away from you.